Hello, everyone, and welcome to Miss Reader's Readers, hanging out with Mrs. Hammond. Oh, I'm so glad to see you today. And we thought it was going to rain outside, but it has turned out beautifully. So I can't wait to get outside. But I first wanted to come read with you guys. So we began a beautiful book, Old Yellow, a classic novel by Fred Gibson last week, and I have read chapters 1, 2, and 3, and today we're going to read chapter 4, and I'm so excited. I am sorry that I missed the last couple of days, but I had two of my grandsons to come, and when your grandsons come, you have to stop the world for them, or that's what grandmothers do. So anyway, I had to visit with them and play with them. So they're gone now, and I am ready to read another chapter. We're going to read chapter 4. But before we do, let's think about what happened in that chapter 3. Travis, and he's the big brother, he went hunting. What did he kill? You remember? He killed a deer. And was it a doe? And a doe's a female deer. So he killed a deer. And he did that because they needed some meat to eat. Well, when he got going back, and he was so proud of himself, and he was just riding that old mule back. And who did he see in the watering pan again, or a little bin thing that they have built? Arliss. Arliss. Who else was with him? That old nasty yellow dog. And that just made Travis so mad again. He wants to get rid of old Yeller. So after he skinned the deer when he got back home, he hung it the same place where old Yeller had gotten the meat before. Did old Yeller touch that? No, he was too smart. He didn't touch it, did he? He just gnawed on the old bone that Mama had given him. Well, today we're going to start, and it's been 2 days since the previous scene. So we're back in the house, and we're going to see what happens today. I think it's going to be very exciting. So I hope all of you are watching and listening. You ready? Oh, and I didn't see any vocabulary that I didn't think you would be unfamiliar with. So we're going to just go ahead and read. All right. Old Yeller. Let's see chapter 4. A couple of days later. I had another and better reason for wanting to get rid of old Yeller. He said that was when the 2 longhorn bulls met at the house and pulled off the big fight. So these 2 big bulls, they were fighting at the house. Well, we first heard the bulls while we were eating our dinner of cornbread and roasted venison and green watercress gathered from below the spring. And one bull came from off a high rocky ridge to the south of the cabin, and we could hear his angry rumbling as he moved down through the thickets of the catclaw and scrub oak. I mean, just really loud. Start coughing. Then he lifted his voice in a wild, brassy blare and set echoes clamoring in the draws and canyons for miles around. Ooh! Just on in that old bull's talking fight. I told Mama and little Arthur, he's bragging that he's the biggest and toughest and the meanest. He's telling all the other bulls that if they've got a lick of sense, they'd better take to cover when he's around. Well, almost before I'd finished talking, we heard the second bull. Oh, no. And he was over about the Salt Lick somewhere. Well, his bellowing was just as loud and braggy as the first one. Moo! And he was telling the first bull that his fight talk was all bluff. He said he was saying that he was the bull of the range, and he was the biggest and the meanest and the toughest. So 2 bulls. My daddy used to have cows. You didn't put 2 bulls in a pasture, did you? Just one. Because they are the boss, right? Well, we sat and we ate and we listened to them, and we could tell by their rumbling and their bawling, moo, and that they were gradually working their way down through the brush toward each other and getting madder by the minutes. Moo, moo, just on and on. I always like to see a fight between bulls or bears or wild boars or almost any wild animals. Now, I got so excited that I just jumped up from the table and I went to the door and stood listening. And I made up my mind that if the bulls met and started to fight, I was going to see it. Well, there was still plenty of careless weeds and crabgrass that needed hoeing and all the corn, but I guessed that I could let them go just long enough to see a good bullfight. Well, our cabin stood on a high knoll about 100 yards above the spring. And years ago, Papa had cleaned out all the brush and the trees around it, leaving a couple of live oaks near the house for shade. And there was so he could get a clear shot at any Comanche, too, or Apache coming to scout us. Well, and while I stood there at the door, the first bull entered the clearing right where Papa had one time shot a Comanche off of his horse. He was a leggy, mustard-colored bull with black freckles and speckled his jaws and his underside of his belly, and he had one great horn set for hooking. Roar! Well, my goodness, and then he had one great horn and hung down past his jaw like a tallow candle that had drooped in that heat. He was what the Mexicans called a chongo, or a droop horn. So they drooped down. His horns did droop down. He was a leggy mustard color, and he trotted out a little piece into the clearing and then stopped to drop his head low. And he went to snorting and shaking his horns. And he was shaking them and pawing up the dirt with his forearm. Oh, he was mad. And he flung that dirt back over his neck and shoulders in great clouds of dust. I couldn't see the other bull yet, but I could tell by the sound of him that he was close and coming in a trot. Oh, I hollered back to Mama and little Artis. I said, there's fixing to be a fight here where we can all see it. Come on. Well, there was a split rail fence around our cabin, and I ran out and I climbed up and took a seat on top. And Mom and little Artis, they climbed up right beside me. Well, then in front from the other side of the clearing came the second bull. Mama and little Artis sat there, and he was that red roan bull. I'd seen him at Salt Licks that day before that I shot the doe. He wasn't as tall and long-legged as that chongo bull, but every bit as heavy and powerful. And while his horns were shorter, they were both curved right for hooking. They were like, curved right. Ooh, and hook them. Now, like the first bull, he came blaring out into the clearing and then stopped to snort. And he was going carrying on, and then his wicked horns, and he pawed up clouds of dust, and he made it plain that he wanted to fight just as bad as that first bull. And about that time, from somewhere behind the cabin came old Yo. He charged through those rails, bristled up and roared, almost as loud as those bulls, and all that bellowing and snorting and the dust pawing sounded like a threat to him. He had come out to run them off away from the house. I hollered at him, "You get back there, you rascal," I shouted. "You're fixing to spoil our show." Well, that stopped him, but he still wasn't satisfied. He kept banging the bulls till I jumped down and picked up a rock. And I didn't have to throw it. All I had to do was just throw back like I was going to. And boy, he went flying back into that yard and around the corner of the cabin yelling like I'd murdered him. Oh, that also put little Arlis on the fight. Oh, he started screaming at me, and he tried to get down where he could pick up a rock. But Mama held him. "Hush now, baby. Hush now, baby, she said. Travis isn't going to hurt your dog. He just doesn't want him to scare off the bulls. Well, it took some talking, but she finally got little Laris's mind off of hitting me with a rock. And I climbed back up on the fence and I told Mama that I was betting on Chongo. She said she was betting her money on Romy because he had 2 fighting horns. And we sat there and we watched the bulls get ready to fight and stalk and laugh and have ourselves a really good time. We never once even thought about us being in danger. Well, when we learned different, though, it was nearly too late. Oh no, what do you predict's going to happen? Danger? Maybe the bulls are going to come toward them? Oh, I don't know. Let's read. Suddenly, Chongo quit pawing the dirt and flung his tail into the air. Oh, and look out, I shouted, here he comes. And sure enough, Chongo charged, pounding the ground and hard pan with his feet and roaring as mighty as woo. And here came Romy to meet him, charging with his head low and his tail high in the air. I let out an excited yell. They met head on with a loud crash of the horns. Oh, and a jar so solid that it seemed like I could feel it clear up there on the fence. Romy went down, and I yelled louder, thinking that Chongo was winning. A second later, though, Romy was back on his feet and charging through the clouds of dust, and their hooves had turned up, and he caught Chongo broadsided, and he slammed his sharp horns up on the hilt of his shoulder off of the mustard-colored bull. He drove against him so fast and hard that Chongo couldn't will away. All he could do was barely keep on his feet by giving ground. Oh, and here they came straight for our rail fence. Land sakes! Mama cried suddenly and leaped from that fence, driving little Arliss down after her. But I was too excited about that fight, and I didn't even see the danger in time. I was still astride the top rail when the struggling bulls crashed into the fence and splintering the post and rails and toppling me to the ground. Oh my goodness, I lunged to my feet. And wild with scare, and got knocked flat on my face in the dirt. Oh, I sure thought I was a goner. Oh, I did, and the roaring of the bulls were right in my ears, and that hot, raking scent of their blood was in my nose, and the bone-crashing weight their hoofs was stomping all around and over me, churning up such a fog of dust that I couldn't see a thing. Oh, and then I was just in the middle of it. And then suddenly Mama, she had me by the hand and was dragging me out from under, yelling the scared voice, run, Travis, run, run, run. Oh my goodness. Well, she didn't have to keep hollering at me. Oh, I was running as fast as I ever hoped to run. And with her running faster and dragging me along by the hand, we scooted through the open cabin door just about as quick breath before Roni slammed Chongo against it. Whew. They hit so hard that in the whole cabin shook. Ooh. And then I saw great big chunks of dried mud fall from between the logs. And there for a second I thought Chongo was coming through the door right on top of us. But he turned broadside like he was. He was too big to be shoved through such a small opening. And then a second later he got off Roni's horn somehow and wheeled on him. Here they went. Then down alongside the cabin well, roaring and stopping, and slamming their heels against their legs. I looked at Mama and I looked at little Lars's face as white as a bed sheet. And for once, little Lars was as scared that he couldn't even speak. Suddenly, I wasn't scared anymore. I was just plain mad. I reached for a braided rawhide whip that hung in a coil on a wooden peg driven between the hot logs. Then scared Mama still worse. Oh no, Travis, she cried. Don't you get out there. Oh, they're fixing to tear down the house, Mama, I said. might run over you, Mama argued. The bulls crashed into the cabin again, and they grunted and they strained and they roared, and their horns and their hoofs clattered and chattered against the logs. Oh, I turned and I headed for the door, and I looked to me like that they'd killed us all if they'd ever broke through those log walls. Mama came running to grab me by the arms. Call the dog, she said. Put the dog after them. Well, that was a great idea. I mean, I was half aggravated with myself because I hadn't thought about it. Well, here was a chance for that old yellow dog to pay back for all the trouble that he had made around this place. I stuck my head out over that door, and the bulls had fallen away from the house, and now they were busy tearing down more of the yard fence. Oh my goodness, I ducked out and around the corner, and I ran through the dog run and toward the back of the house calling, "Here you are! Here you are! Get him, boys! Sick 'em!" Old Yellow, he was back there all right, but he didn't even come and he didn't sick 'em. He took one look at me running toward him with that bullwhip in my hand, and he knew that I'd come to kill him. He tucked his tail in and he went out for yelling, running for the woods. If there had been any way that I could have done it right then and there, I would have killed him. But there wasn't time to mess with a fool dog like that. I had to do something about those bulls. They were wrecking the place, and I had to stop it. Papa had left me to take care of this family and things while he was gone, and I wasn't about to let those mad bulls tear up everything that we had. I ran up to the bulls, and I went to work on them with the whip. Oh, it was a heavy 16-footer, and I'd practiced with a lot, and I could crack that rawhide pupper louder than a gunshot. Pow, pow, pow. Oh, and I could cut a branch as thick as my little finger off of a green mesquite with it. That was good. But I couldn't stop those bulls from fighting. They were too mad. They were hurting too much already, and I might as well have been spitting on them. I yelled and I whipped at them, and all I got clear out. And still they went right on with their roaring, bloody battle. Ooh, ooh, just on and on. I guess that would have kept on fighting if they'd leveled the house to the ground. If I hadn't been for a freak accident. Well, we had had plenty. We had had heavy two-wheeled Mexican cart that Papa used for hauling wood and hay, and it happened to be standing out in front of the house right where that ground broke away in a sharp slant toward the spring creek. It had just come to me that I could get my gun and shoot the bulls when Chongo crowded Roni up against the cart. He ran that long single horn clear under Roni's belly, and now he gave such a big heave that he lifted Roni's feet clear off the ground and rolled him in the air. A second later, Roni landed flat on his back inside the bed of that dump cart with all 4 feet sticking up. I thought his weight would break that cart to pieces, but I was wrong. Oh my goodness, that cart was stronger than I thought it was. Well, all the bull's weight did was tilt it so that the wheels started rolling. I mean, and away the cart went down that hill, carrying Romy with it. Ooh! Oh my goodness! And then when that happened, Chongo was suddenly the silliest looking boy that you'd ever seen. He stood with his tail up and his head high, staring after that runaway cart, and he couldn't for the life of him figure out what he had done with the wrong bull. The rolling cart rattled, and it banged, and it careened its way down to the slope until it was right beside the spring there. One wheel struck a big boulder, pow, bouncing that side of the cart so high that it turned over and it skidded to a stop. The wrong bull spilled right out into the spring water, and it flew in all directions. Woo! Roni got to his feet under him, and he screamed up out of the hole. But I guess that cart ride and sudden wetting had taken all the fight out of him, because anyhow he headed for the timber. running with his tail tucked, water streaming down out of his hair, leaving a dark, wet trail in the dry dust to show which way he'd gone. Chongo saw Roni then, and he snorted, and he went after him. But when he got to that cart, he slid to a sudden stop. That cart lying on its sides now, it still had that top wheel spinning. It just turned around and around, and Chongo had never seen anything like that, and he stood and he stared at that spinning wheel. He couldn't understand it. He lifted his nose up to smell it. He couldn't figure it. Finally, he reached out his long tongue to lick and taste it. That was a bad mistake, because I guess that iron tire on that spinning wheel was roughed up pretty badly, and maybe had chips of broken rock and gravel stuck to it. Anyhow, from the way Chongo acted, I must have scraped all the hide off of his tongue. Chongo bawled, and he went running backward, and he whirled away so fast that he lost his footing, and he fell down. He came to his feet, and he took out at the opposite direction from the roan bull. He ran, slinging his head and flopping. Oh, all the way back into the thickets, like he'd stuck it into a bear trap. He ran with his tail clamped just as tight as the roan bull's. Well, it was enough to make you laugh your head off the way both of those bad bulls had gotten the wit scared clear out of them, and each of them thinking he'd lost the fight. But they sure had made a wreck of the yard fence. And that's the end of chapter 4. Oh my goodness. So they were going to watch this bullfight. And what happened? It got dangerous, didn't it? They didn't expect the bulls to come all the way up to their cabin, and they did. And Travis knew that he had to do something because they were tearing the place up. And then there was this old cart, and happened just a freak accident. A freak accident is something that just happens. You're not expecting it to. No one meant for it to. But that roan bull landed in that old cart, and it rolled down the hill and tumbled it out, and tumbled out in the water. And then the other one saw the wheel turning, and he licked the turning iron wheel. I bet that hurt. Anyway, now he's got to clean up all the mess. So I wonder what tomorrow brings. You guys enjoy your day. It's beautiful, and I'll see you tomorrow.